fall, grade 5, we did a very cool project on accessibility.
We want to make our school more accessible for people in wheelchairs so they feel included.
We've been learning about accessibility in STEAM to help others who live with a wheelchair. The first thing we did was you put up 4 big sheets of paper and wrote accessibility, barrier, challenge, and disability. And then you asked us to write on a sticky note what we thought those meant. Disability is what we use to refer to someone who is different, who uses a wheelchair. There's also other ways you can say the word that it's a nicer way, like differently able. I think accessibility is like being able to go somewhere or do something without having some challenges or barriers that stops you from doing it. Not having to worry about those things while you're doing what you're doing. Barrier is like something that stands in your way. A barrier is something that you can't actually do. Like it's really hard. Say there's a wall and you're walking toward the wall and you can't go through the wall. It can't go through the wall because it's made of brick. But a challenge is, say the wall, there's a door, but it's really hard to open. That's a challenge.
I think this project is about demolishing barriers, just completely obliterating them. Explosion right there.
So we did a survey at our school, an accessibility survey, to see how accessible our school was. Went around and figured out what was accessible. We found out that there were so many barriers that we never paid attention about, and how different it was if we were in a wheelchair.
Wheelchairs sometimes are quite big sometimes, and then if it's too big, but if it was too big, they wouldn't be able to turn to this round.
Kyle Jenny works at the Rick Hansen Foundation, and he uses a wheelchair, and he talked to us about accessibility. So that we could learn more about life in a wheelchair. We do to make our community more accessible for people using wheelchairs. How do you get around on snowy days? Why did you choose to get into sports after you had a
Is it hard to get to further places, like traveling by plane, car, or boat?
For a week at York House, we got to experience being in a wheelchair. There was a lot of barriers and challenges. Everything took a long time, and you felt very left out, being left behind for everything.
Before, I was just oh, it must be really hard for them, but I never really got to put myself into that situation and be oh my, this really takes such a long time.
But for me, the hardest part was getting into the classroom. I feel like the classroom doors are really small, but not in the sense that when you try and turn, your wheel gets stuck on the side, so you're stuck and someone has to push you. When I was in house games, I was too low to block the ball for pinball, and I was too high to pick up the ball.
It was challenging because it was really tiring up ramps, and there was the elevator doors, they went really fast. So you got stuck or you had to press the button again.
Life in a wheelchair. It's getting rough.
Can you please get my stuff?
Well,
After using the wheelchair, we wrote down in a small booklet the challenges and barriers that we faced, and the challenges that we saw our classmates face, and we tried to solve problems. In science, we were learning about simple machines.
So we use simple machines to make life easier for disabled people.
It involves a lot of simple machine making, the wheels of the wheelchair would be wheel and axle.
They're like a barrier, and we use incline plane to like help.
And we figured out a problem and tried to make something that could fix the problem.
To brainstorm our ideas, we did it on a big piece of paper and then shared our ideas.
Rory is an engineer who works at BCIT Red Lab, and he came to talk to us about assistive technology.
Rory does things like to help people in wheelchairs like live a comfortable life. Because we had an idea for our prototype, but it wasn't really working. And he helped us to do like the mechanism for it to go up and down.
I think testing your prototype is really important because if you don't test it out and you just show it to people, like present it to them, you never know if something might be wrong.
So maybe you could make a support beam, but like make it into two support beams so it separates and not.
Like that you can't really fit your wheelchair on it. That's what, because you can,
If you use some sort of grip on it, I think that would even make it even better.
I think that you could turn the edges like kind of like a ramp. In art, we also thought about accessibility.
So we mouth painted and feet painted, and it was really hard to get the brush in the water without tipping the water over. Someone did a beautiful sunflower that looked like it was photo taken.
We went to an art show and it was called Can You See Us Vancouver? There's gonna be like a variety of people going there. There will be like people in wheelchairs or people who walk and stand up. They had to find like a right height for it. And then they found that like the best height for it was 48 inches. We looked around and it was really interesting on how they like created the art. An artist in Cat, she needed assistance making it. So she asked her friends or people to help her, and when they did, the art still was really fantastic.
Making the school accessible is for everyone in like wheelchairs and people who aren't in wheelchairs too.
and to make us sort of be aware of it, because before this experience, I knew nothing about accessibility and hadn't really thought about it, but now when I go places, I'm like, oh, there's a wheelchair ramp.
I used to think that they were very, like, a disability would be like someone who's like super different from other people, but now like I know that they're exactly the same.
Everyone's different. Like I have a different hair color than my friend. They're just like in a wheelchair and I'm not. Like there's no difference.
Everybody wants to feel independent and included, and our projects are to help that.
It's so better for our community, so we can like think more about other people. People start to know about your idea, and then somehow you start to spread the idea. Some people might want to consider it into their school, and then that way our community could become more accessible. Make like just the world more accessible.
And if our projects get like moved out into the world, like in other parts of the world, then people in wheelchairs, they can get around more easily.
Welcome to the ISCA Wheelchair Championship!